Nerves. Sometimes, much like breakups, no matter how much we try and get away from them, they haunt us. They obsess in our brains and they can't leave us. And presentations work in the same way. Whenever we're nervous about something, especially if those nerves get in the way of us presenting at all, that frustrates me because it prevents the greatest ideas from being shared. And I'm not any different. I struggled with nerves my entire life, and I still do. But I'm going to tell you in this week's episode of Master Talk why I don't let nerves get in the way of any of my presentations. Hi everyone, I hope you're doing amazing. Brandon from Master Talk here, your go-to channel to mastering your talk. And today we're covering the art of getting rid of your fear of public speaking once and for all. So let's get into it. Number one, care enough to crush your fear. The first question we need to ask ourselves is, why are we scared? What are we actually scared of in public speaking? Is it the fear of messing up? Is it the fear of judgment? Is it the fear of not knowing our subject, that we're an imposter, that we shouldn't be giving this presentation in the first place? And the better we understand where that fear originates from, only then we can start to really figure out how we can get rid of it. And for me, it was always being scared of, letting my audience down. Whenever I went to a presentation, whenever I gave a keynote, I always felt like an imposter at the beginning because I was very young and I was teaching people public speaking communication with no university degree in communication, even if I went to business school. And that always gave me a low self-esteem because I would go up to people and present to them as the expert, even if internally I always believed that I wasn't. And I never wanted to let my audience down. But what really shifted for me in that way is when I woke up and realized that any amount of nerves, any amount of fear, or any amount of uncertainty that I share my audience, or that I tell them, or that I hint at them, leads to the following scenario. They'll look at me and say, well, if Brendan is nervous, if Brendan is scared, if Brendan doesn't look like he knows what he's talking about, then I probably can't master communication because he sure can't. And that ability to care so much about my audience and their needs forced me to become a great speaker. Because if you care so much about your audience that you're willing to make videos for them, that you're willing to be extremely energetic on camera, and that you're willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that your message is heard and understood by every single person who has the fortune of hearing you speak, only then will you be able to crush your fear. Because fear is not something that goes away. It's something that you understand and that you dance with. And if you're able to dance with your fear and understand that it's just there to help you get better as a speaker, you'll be unstoppable. Number two, embrace your audience. Day-to-day speakers, whenever they think about their upcoming presentations, they usually say, oh, I wonder what my audience is gonna think of me. Oh, I'm really nervous here. I wonder what they're gonna say to me. But the best speakers in the world, at the top of their game, always say, what can I do for my audience? And how can I interact with them in a way that they want to be a part of what I'm doing? The perception that you have of your audience when you get really good at communication is so different than the perception of someone who isn't a good speaker. Because if you're really good at speaking, you see your audience as your friend and you give space for them to be who they want to be. I'll give you a quick example. I gave a presentation once to a group of teenage girls. You can imagine that was a bit tricky because they didn't really like me, as they didn't every other panelist that came before me. So it was very challenging for me to get their attention and to get them excited about communication and public speaking. So how did I manage to get their attention? Well, for the first 30 minutes, to be honest, I didn't. Despite all the energy that I was bringing to the table, well, they were more like this. Communication. But After a couple of minutes, when I started asking them questions, there's this girl named Julia in the audience who wanted to participate a bit more, who started interrupting me, who started commenting, but not in a bad way, but just to add value to the presentation. And most speakers in that situation would go, hey, you're not supposed to be talking. This is my presentation. But the great speakers go, hey, I want you to participate. I want you to be a part of this. It went so far that Julia started presenting half of my presentation, but that's what led to everyone falling in love with the topic that I had for them today. So don't see your audience as a bad thing, but rather an asset to make your presentations better. And if you can dance with your audience as you dance with your fear, you'll be able to create a dance worth watching. And finally, number 3, which is probably the most important tip, which is be relentlessly you. Look, at the end of the day, no matter how good you are as a speaker, there's people who just won't be connected to your message or what you're doing, and that's okay. Your goal as a presenter is not to please everyone, but rather obsess so much about your audience so that you can get the most amount of people to buy into your message. But notice the key word, most is not everyone. You can get 80%, you can get 70%, you can get 90%, but it's okay if you don't get 100%. And in that way, I've always believed that public speaking is not trying to pretend to be someone else, trying to pretend to speak like somebody else, but rather finding your unique style and leveraging that in the best possible way. Do you like to tell jokes? Are you funny? Go for it. Are you sarcastic? It'll work for a lot of people that are watching you. Do whatever that works for you. And as you develop your own unique you, you'll present in a way that is confident for you and your message and your audience. And then over time, as you start to develop more tools, you can start to speak to different crowds. Like so. So when you're speaking to an extrovert, you can be very energetic. But if you're speaking to an introvert who's really shy, you can also change your vocal variety as well. If there's anything that you take away from this video, it's the following. It doesn't matter how good you are as a speaker because you will always have fear. And I am no exception to this rule. But if we can see the relationship that we have with fear as a dance rather than an attack, we'll be that much better as speakers. Because if we leverage our style of speaking, if we try to be the best possible us, then I guarantee you there is somebody who will reach their hand out to us and say, I want to be a part of your message. As always, if you enjoyed this week's episode of Master Talk, I hope you did, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. And if you know one person, I'm pretty sure you do, that's scared of public speaking, that doesn't want to get up on stage, that doesn't want to share their message, share them this video. Not because it'll help me, because it will, but because their message matters and it's waiting to be shared. So help them out a bit. See you next time, everyone. Take care.